Good everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm beginning a two-part series on this channel as we go through every NBA team. Today will be the Eastern Conference and Wednesday will be the Western Conference. We will go through every NBA team and give you my opinion on how good or what the best case scenario for their season can be if everything goes essentially perfect for them. Now obviously this is all my opinion. It is subject to change. It is subject to discussion. So if you disagree, if you agree, comment down below all of your thoughts down there, and I love to have a very in-depth discussion with the community and with my subscribers. Thank you all for joining me on this one, and we're going to go through the order of the standings from last season, starting with the Miami Heat at number 1 and finishing off with the 15th seeded Orlando Magic. To begin with, we are going to talk about the Miami Heat, who they did lose PJ Tucker this offseason. Jimmy Butler is getting older. Kyle Lowry is getting older. Who knows how good he's going to be this season after an okay season last year. He wasn't anything spectacular, but they still have Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Tyler Hero. I don't know why I said Gabe Vincent first. Bam Adebayo is still there. They've got a good core on this team, and with that defensive-minded team, I think they're still going to be a very, very solid NBA team and likely are going to contend for the finals at minimum this year and the future, because Bam Adebayo, if he can just develop some type of jump shot, this Miami Heat team will have no problems competing next year. But PJ Tucker is going to be a big loss for them, and similar to the Boston Celtics at the number 2 spot, this Boston Celtics team has a lot of controversy going around them right now, obviously with the Ime Udoka situation, but thankfully they've got a lot of talent on this roster still, no matter who the head coach is. Jason Tatum, if he can get his shot down in the playoffs, this team is going to be extremely, extremely deadly. Jaylen Brown played his heart out, and they've got some amazing role players. Adding Malcolm Brogdon and Danilo Gallinari only puts that another tier up, and in my opinion, the Celtics have a very, very likely chance to repeat back-to-back finals appearances. As bad or as much as I hate to say that, this team is extremely talented and they only got better over the offseason, which is something that I cannot say about my number 3 team here, or the 3rd seed from last year, my Milwaukee Bucks. We didn't make a lot of moves in the offseason. We're still going to be a contender. We've got our core group of players, Giannis, Chris, and Drew, obviously, as the big 3 on this roster. Thankfully for us, Giannis is probably the number 1 player in the NBA right now. Maybe you could argue that he's 2nd or 3rd, but he is at minimum a top 3 NBA player right now. So as long as he's on the roster, this team is going to compete. Joe Ingles, interesting signing, could be good. Who knows how good he's going to come back from that ACL injury, especially at the age he is at right now. He's an older guy, but as long as he can come back and, hit some threes and play a little defense, it's a good signing. MarJon Beauchamp, obviously an interesting potential there for a rookie shooting guard. But at the end of the day, the Bucks are going to be good, and best case scenario, in my opinion, is a finals run if everything goes perfect. And unfortunately for us, that's going to take a lot of work, because here's another team at 4, the Philadelphia 76ers, who could very easily be a finals contending team. These top 4 teams, in my opinion, are probably the only Eastern Conference teams that are major finals contenders. Now, the 76ers did bring in PJ Tucker. They brought in Daniel House, D'Anthony Melton, who, yes, has struggled in the playoffs, but is still a very, very serviceable guard. They have the same core from last year. James Harden takes a major pay cut. He's had a lot of time to recover from his injuries, and you kind of getting out of completely. Last year, they were still struggling with the Ben Simmons media stuff. You're out of that now. Tyrese Maxey is really good. Joel Embiid's an MVP. Tobias Harris is Tobias Harris. He's going to be good. This team is going to be a major contender in the Eastern Conference, and do not be surprised if they make the finals next year, because they have a lot of talent, and they definitely got nothing but better over the offseason, in my opinion. And I think that's probably going to help them out and help them get over the hump, which is something that they have not been able to do in probably the last 4 years when they made the playoffs. And that's where we end off on, in my opinion, the first 4 seeds from last year are all going to be major finals contending teams. And now we are in the 5-and-on series of teams that, in my opinion, most of these teams are going to be able to compete, but at best case scenario, I don't see them making a finals run. First off, at the 5 seed, we have the Toronto Raptors. Obviously, this team was good last year, shockingly good. Scottie Barnes, Rookie of the Year. Pascal Siakam had a major bounce-back season. You know, you've got Fred VanVleet still there. They've got a lot of talent. Gary Trent Jr. They have as much talent as you would like on an NBA team, but they just don't have that superstar guy. And unless I see Scottie Barnes making that leap into an offensive juggernaut, which I don't see yet, I think he could be there, but I don't think he's going to make that leap in one offseason. This team is still going to be good, but I'll probably lean towards another first-round exit, or at best case scenario, a second-round exit. Everything goes right for them, though. They could make a third-round or a conference finals appearance, but I would think that would be pushing a lot of luck on their end. And that's kind of how I feel about this 6 seed. The Chicago Bulls thought they got better in this offseason. Andre Drummond kind of replaces, or I wouldn't say really replaces, he kind of fills the void of what Vucevic can't do. So now they have a double-headed monster at center with a guy that's very offensive heavy and a guy that is, you know, not the greatest defender, but he's better than Vooch, and a guy that can rebound a lot better than Vooch and Andre Drummond. Young guys can continue to get better. Kobe White is a very tantalizing trade piece for the Chicago Bulls if they would like to move him. Alex Caruso still there. Zach LaVine is only continuing to grow as a superstar player. DeMar DeRozan did okay in the playoffs last year. Could have done better in those last few games, but at the end of the day, he showed out in that second game especially, and in the first game he did all right, but neither team shot very well in that game. At the end of the day, though, Lonzo Ball, what is happening with his knee injury? They just recently announced that it will be re-reviewed in about 4 to 6 weeks, and he likely won't be ready for that season beginning. So that's going to be a tough situation for the Bulls. Don't really know what's going on in there in Chicago, and I'm really skeptical of saying they're a contending team without knowing exactly what happens to Lonzo, because he was the anchor on that defense, and because of that, I'm going to have to go with the Bulls. Probably best case scenario, a second round exit. I don't think they have what it takes to contend for the finals. And there's a few other teams beneath them that have improved enough that I think they're going to be probably much better than the Bulls this season. And one of those teams is, well, I guess not really one of those teams, but one of the teams that I think will be better this season is the Brooklyn Nets here at the 7th spot. I don't think the Nets are going to be a very, very deep finals running team. I think they're probably best case scenario a second round exit similar to the Bulls, but they're going to be another tier above. Obviously, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are still there together, and if Ben Simmons can come back, everybody forgets how good of an NBA player Ben Simmons was. That guy is a very, very good defender and a playmaker and a rebounder, and he's good offensively unless he's shooting the ball. Ben Simmons is going to fit really well with this team. They brought in a few good pieces this offseason. They've kept the core. At the end of the day, though, they didn't really get a center, which was probably their biggest weakness. Nick Claxton is okay. Unfortunately for them, he's not the greatest center out there, but with Kevin Durant and Kyrie, you're still going to be really good. If Kyrie can play this whole season, the Nets are going to be dangerous. I think best case scenario, they are a second round exit just because of how their depth is and how how much they lack at that center position. But don't be surprised if they get past that point this NBA season. You just can never tell with the Brooklyn Nets. And one team that I'm very high on after this offseason, there's actually two teams, and they're back-to-back right here. At the 8th spot from last year, we have the Atlanta Hawks. Now, obviously, this team is supposed to do better than they did last year. They finished 43-39 a year after going all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. They upset the Knicks. They upset the 76ers, and they gave the Bucks a run for their money in that Eastern Conference Finals matchup. And they kind of just came out flat last year. Trae Young wasn't playing at such a high level as he had been. Obviously, he ramped that up going further into the season. The rest of the team struggled with injuries. DeAndre Hunter missed a lot of time, and he's a very, very important piece to that defense, especially with a point guard like Trae Young. But the addition of DeJounte Murray, while also keeping everyone else outside of who they traded for DeJounte, that is a very big addition for the Hawks, and I would not be shocked if the Atlanta Hawks make a Eastern Conference Finals appearance. I'm not going to say a Finals appearance. I think this team can be a very, very heavy competitor this year, but they're just not there yet. They've got some room to grow. We don't know how DeJounte Murray's going to, how he's going to work well with Trae Young. It should be good, but we don't know entirely This team is good. They're going to make a deep playoff run, in my opinion, second round or Eastern Conference Finals, but I don't think they're ready for a finals appearance. And now another team that got dramatically better while also keeping their already very, very, very promising core this offseason. The Cleveland Cavaliers obviously making a major trade or a major move for Donovan Mitchell this offseason, a all-star, perennial, may I say, superstar guard player that can pair very well next to Darius Garland. They got off of Colin Sexton, a guy who had been, he'd been waiting for his major or his large contract for a long time, and I think it's for the best of both parties that they got rid of him in order to get a guy that they feel more comfortable giving that type of contract to. Donovan Mitchell is really good. This Cavs team was really good last year. They started out really, really amazing. Better than a lot of people thought they would be, and they finished out really poor. 3-7 in their final 10 games. Lost both play-in tournament games. Didn't even make the playoffs. So I think this is a interesting team. Similar to the Hawks, they had a down into the year last year, or the Hawks had a stronger into the year last year, but similar to the Hawks, both teams kind of disappointed overall last year, considering how good they were doing at one point in the season or at one point in the past. I'm going to say the Cavs have an opportunity to make a second round push, but I think that's probably the farthest they're going to make it as a roster. I think this team has some ways to grow. I mean, a lot of their team is still very young, but the idea that Darius Garland and Jarrett Allen all made that leap, or both made the leap to an all-star last year, is a very, very good thing for Cleveland if you're a Cavs fan. And I think they're going to be a contender in a few years, but they're just not there yet. So second round is probably where I'd be comfortable saying they're going to be, but first round exit would not be too shocking just because of how much talent there is in the NBA. And now we get to the Charlotte Hornets. As you can see, I'm usually wearing the Charlotte Hornets hat a lot in these videos, and I have to say, I think this year is going to be very bad for Charlotte. Best case scenario, in my opinion, probably a first round pick or a first overall pick, because they don't have a lot of talent on this roster. They've underperformed the last 2 years, losing Miles Bridges on that very, very, very bad case right there. I just can't stand what Miles Bridges did, and I want to make that emphasized right there. I can't stand it, but losing Miles Bridges hurts this team a lot. He looked like he could make an all-star jump in the next couple of years. Obviously, LaMelo's good, but he's not that good. He's not going to carry this team to the playoffs, and I don't even think they're going to make the play-in tournament again. They've had 2 straight play-in tournament appearances. I think this team probably falls off the face of the planet, and in my opinion, they're probably going to end up tanking towards the end of the year for a first or overall or second overall pick, or a better chance to get that, which I hate to say considering they're my second favorite team behind the Milwaukee Bucks, but that's where I stand on the Charlotte Hornets. And now we get into the final 5 spots. First off, we've got the Knicks. Now, they did get better with Jalen Brunson. Whether or not you like the signing or the amount of money they gave him, they obviously got better. Jalen Brunson is a good point guard. They've got their core. Julius Randle can get back to where he was at 2 years ago. This is a contending team, but I highly doubt that's going to happen. They're going to be good, but I'll probably lean towards play-in appearance or a first-round exit. I just don't think they have enough talent on the roster to make any much or a jump farther than that. RJ Barrett still needs to improve, in my opinion, to become that guy in New York, but they've got talent. So in a few years down the road, don't be surprised if they're a contending team in the NBA. Next up, we have the Washington Wizards. I'm going to fly through these last few to keep the video a little bit shorter than some of my other videos like this have been. Washington Wizards have talent, probably aren't going to be very good. I didn't like the Bradley Beal contract. Honestly, I would have preferred a trade from Bradley or with Bradley Beal going somewhere else, getting you a lot of pieces in return, because they're probably going to be bad again. They're probably going to miss the playoffs, but they'll be just good enough to almost make the play-in, or just good enough to not get a top 5 pick, and that's going to hurt them really bad. I think the Wizards are going to miss the playoffs and probably be right around the 12 or 11 seed, same as they were last year, best case scenario. And the Indiana Pacers, 13th seed, best case scenario for them is the number 1 overall pick. They're going to tank. They're not a good team. They've got a lot of young prospects on that roster. And, man, they've got talent, but they're just not there yet. So I'm going to go ahead and say that they're going to be a number 1 overall pick or bust team, because if they had DeAndre Ayton, maybe I'd change a little bit, but Tyrese Halliburton ain't carrying you all the way. I am excited to see Benedict Mathurin, and maybe they can finally trade Miles Turner this season, but Either way, they're going to be a bad team this NBA season. And finally, we get to the final two, who I'm actually going to jump up a little bit over the other teams or where they finished last year. First off, the Detroit Pistons are building something in Detroit. I'm not quite sure what, but they have veterans. They've got young pieces. They have talent. Cade Cunningham is probably only going to get better. I'm going to go ahead and say they have a chance. Now listen to me, a chance to make a play-in appearance. This team is good, not great. They're not there yet. I think they're going to be a quality team, fun to watch, but they're not a contender or a deep playoff team that can make a deep playoff run. So I'm going to say a playoff or play-in appearance, and if they're lucky, best case scenario, a first-round exit. But don't be surprised if they give people trouble in the playoffs because they have a lot of talent on that roster. Finally, 15th overall in the last year's seedings, the Orlando Magic. And like I said with Detroit, do not be surprised if this team makes a leap. They have all the talent in the world. Jonathan Isaac should be finally coming back. Yes, he hasn't played in forever, but it'd be great to see him back. Wendell Carter Jr., I'm very, very, very big on. Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner. They've got all the talent in the world. They've got veterans. Paolo Banchero's coming in as the #1 overall pick. Love this talent for the Magic. I just love this team. I think they're going to have a lot of chemistry coming together, but saying that, similar to the Pistons, they're just not there quite yet, and that's why I have trouble putting them over a play-in appearance or a first-round exit. But I do think the best case scenario that a first-round exit is where they will stand, and that's all 15 Eastern Conference teams. Obviously, there are 15 other teams in the NBA, so look forward to and turn post notifications on so you catch my video Wednesday afternoon where I go through the 15 teams in the Western Conference and give you guys my opinion and best case scenario for them. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you all for watching. Hit the like button and subscribe if you did enjoy. If you didn't, comment down below what your thoughts are about every team in the NBA and what you disagree with in this video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.